The olfactory nerve is the first of the 12 cranial nerves that connect our brain to other parts of our body. In this video, we'll give you an easy visual way to remember all the key facts about the olfactory nerve, so you'll be ready on test day. Gotta love the smells here at the scented oil factory. You know, scented oils, like the kind of oil that goes into your air fresheners and stuff at home. Anyways, this oil factory also happens to be our symbol for the olfactory nerve. Get it? Oil factory for olfactory nerve. To make this day extra special, it also happens to be bring your kid to work today. That's why I've brought my baby to work. Of course, to keep the baby comfortable, I've dressed him in a cozy onesie. Coincidentally, this onesie is our symbol for cranial nerve number 1. Get it? Onesie for number 1. It's super important to remember which number corresponds to which cranial nerve. This picture should help you remember that the olfactory nerve is cranial nerve number 1. Okay, with the naming and numbering out of the way, let's move on to discuss what kind of information this nerve carries. To ensure that each batch of oil in this factory consistently meets our standards for quality, we've attached sensors to the vats here, to automatically monitor its quality. By the way, this sensor is our recurring symbol for sensory information. Get it? Sensor for sensory? The olfactory nerve is a sensory nerve, which means that it carries sensory information from our body to our brain. You may see sensory nerves also referred to as afferent nerves, which just means that the signal travels into or towards your brain. Should make sense, since all sensory information needs to get sent to the brain in order to be registered as a sensation. What a nice aroma in the air. These fragrant aromas coming from these oils should remind you that the olfactory nerve is responsible for carrying our sense of smell. This should be pretty obvious if you recall that olfaction is just a fancy way of saying smell. The olfactory nerve runs from above the nose to the brain, carrying our sense of smell. Technically, your sense of smell starts from many olfactory nerve endings, which line the inside of the walls of your nose, where they pick up the aromatic compounds from the air we breathe in. This collection forms your olfactory nerve, which then transforms each smelled compound into a unique electrical signal that then gets sent up the nerves and into the brain. Pretty neat, huh? Next, let's talk about the path that this smell information takes to reach the brain, because it's pretty unique for the olfactory nerve. To keep our baby safe, we've brought a baby crib so that he can't wander around in the factory unsupervised. By the way, the crib here is our symbol for the cribriform plate. Get it? Crib for cribriform plate? As we just talked about, your sense of smell actually starts from olfactory nerve endings inside the nose. In order to transmit smell information into the brain, little extensions of the olfactory nerves pass through the cribriform plate, which is just a collection of holes in the skull that separates the inside of the nose from the brain. This is technically part of the ethmoid bone, and once the nerves pass this bone, they are already inside your brain. The olfactory nerve cells end in a synapse, with the olfactory bulb, which is a structure in your forebrain that receives and processes all the smell information for use by other parts of your brain. Interestingly, this path means the olfactory bulb is one of only 2 cranial nerves that do not originate or travel to the brainstem. The other exception is the optic nerve, which we'll cover in our next video. What's going on? The oil sensor is going crazy. Some oil must have boiled over and spilled all over the floor. I'm looking frantically for a towel to clean up the mess, but for some reason the towel is gone. Our baby must have hidden the towel as a mischievous prank. Towels are our recurring symbol for the thalamus, since towel sounds like thalamus or towelamus, right? So, a lack of towels, or no towel, if you will, is our symbol for no thalamic relay. A unique feature of the olfactory nerve is that it does not have a thalamic relay to the cortex. All of the other cranial nerves transmit their signals through the thalamus, which then relays that signal to the cortex, hence why it's called the thalamic relay. In contrast, the olfactory nerve and olfactory bulb sends its signals directly to the cortex and limbic lobe, without going through the thalamus at all. One way I like to connect all of this information is to think about how olfaction is believed to be one of our most primitive senses. Evolutionary neurobiologists believe that our sense of smell developed well before the brainstem and thalamus, which explains why our sense of smell never touches these structures, just in case that helps. Alright, that's it for the olfactory nerve. Let's summarize what we've learned here. The olfactory nerve, also known as cranial nerve number 1, or the first cranial nerve, is a sensory nerve that is responsible for carrying our sense of smell. The nerve endings of the olfactory nerve start in the mucosal walls of our nose, pass through the cribriform plate of our skull, and end in the olfactory bulb of our forebrain, which then processes smell before sending it to other parts of the brain. Uniquely, the olfactory nerve is the only cranial nerve that does not transmit signals using a thalamic relay, opting instead to send signals directly to the cortex and other parts of the brain. Okay, now we're actually done with the olfactory nerve. We need to find that lost towel and clean up the oil here before the smell gets out of hand. See you in the next video.